Welcome back, everyone. We got an absolute jam-packed show today. I'm your host, Osid, and this is Rings and Things, the home of Lakers exceptionalism, Lakers greatness, and where banners aren't optional, they're tradition. Joining me today is someone who bleeds purple and gold. He's a certified basketball psycho and a now a credentialed media member covering the Lakers, South Bay Lakers, the Sparks, with any team that's in SoCal. He has his name on it. You could also find him as the co-host on Lakers Lounge, Lakers Detailed, and he's also an insider in covering with Clutch Points. Raj Chipalu, it is an absolute honor. Thank you for joining me tonight and covering the show. How you doing, man?
I am doing well. Glad to be here. We have been friends online for a while, and surprised that we've never spoken, in front of a mic or anytime. So it's cool to connect and be on your show. Honored to be here, and yeah, I'm excited to talk some basketball. Happy to be back in Southern California, by the way, after about 4 grueling hot days in Las Vegas. Happy to be back and covering basketball again.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about, Lakers basketball and everything that's going on. Why don't we start there? Why don't we start with your experience, being in Vegas,
hmm
covering the Lakers from the media perspective, the media side. I know you've been going to Vegas for years, and it's something that you mark your calendar pretty
Yes.
early on that this is like, okay, this is going to be like, you tell mom, you tell everyone, like, okay, I'm going to be in Vegas for this weekend or this weekend, this month. But the first time that you're covering, from the media side, and you had great seats, by the way. You were sitting next to Trevor Lane and Dime Dropper. And I could always see you on TV because a certain someone who's always in the news, a 40-year-old gentleman was sitting right in front of you. But yeah, talk me through, just being covering it from the media side, and then anything else you can take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been going since D'Lo's second year, I believe, was 2017. It was Brandon Ingram's rookie year, so that was my first summer league experience. Absolute blast. And so at that time, I would say it was more of the sickos that were going to summer league, right? This was the first time the Lakers really had lottery prospects. So, they went and had a huge crowd, and then following that up, you had the Lonzo Ball season, which I would say was the craziest summer league that I've been to. A full packed house for a summer league game, fans right on top of you. I don't know if you've never been to the UNLV Thomas and Mack Center. The crowd is right on top of you and very communicative on the court. But yeah, being now, like 7-8 years later on the media side of it, very interesting. A lot of media members. You don't realize how big this industry is until you get there, where it's the center, of the universe for the NBA. But a really cool environment where everybody is there. You can speak to coaches, scouts, national media, right? You'll have, national media right next to an assistant coach of a team, next to a head coach of another team, all there by the water cooler, I would say, is the court. So right next to the court, you'll have all these people just talking and sharing experiences and stories and information about players and stuff like that. And you could overhear conversations that, aren't meant for the public,
Yeah, yeah.
hearing and things like that. But yeah, very cool environment. Was there for two of the Laker games. Obviously, Bronny brings his own media environment with him as well. LeBron, as you mentioned, the 40-year-old man that came and watched the basketball game. But yeah, just a really cool and awesome experience to be on this side of it. NBA is a big world, but it's a very small community. So you see everyone from, people who are on TV, people who do radio. Everyone is there kind of covering this summer event where really the wins and losses don't matter, right? I mean, no one cares who
Yeah.
wins in summer league, but the experience of it, seeing players play for the first time, Cooper Flag versus Bronny, it was an absolute movie. I mean, the crowd was absolutely locked in.
Yeah.
And so you get little matchups like that that make the experience really fun. And I would encourage anyone who's a basketball fan to come out. Be careful with the heat, but other than that, stay hydrated and come enjoy some summer basketball with a bunch of people who love the sport.
Yeah, I feel like the more and more that you went into like the details of it, it just kind of like aligns with like if you're into it's like a Comic Con. It's like any type of like basketball related activity that like interests
Hmm.
you, you could find it like in this kind of, you know, concentrated weekend or whichever time frame you kind of go into, and you run into a lot of folks that you know you interact with online, and there's like you said the exposure to players and coaches, and I just think it's like probably like if you are a basketball fan, if you have access like that, you should try to make a trip out there because it's there's just so much going on. I think like you can get, you know, so much advantage to it. So in light of that, I mean, I think, you know, one thing that I noticed, you know, coming
Hmm.
into from last year's South Bay, it's not South Bay, but the summer league into this year, I noticed like, you know, a lot of intention with, you know, players' roles and schemes and how the coaches were kind of like managing lineups and rotations. And I kind of talked about this in my last show, but like JJ Redick was probably like hired like weeks before
Yes.
summer league, and things were like obviously in flux, but like, you know, kind of having a season and now like the coaching staff and familiarity with like a lot of the guys that have some familiarity from the South Bay side of it and the development. And kind of what I want to marry with this topic is like your experience of covering South Bay and then seeing the growth and development. Because like for me, the biggest thing, and it's not like I don't really care about the wins and losses. For me, what I care about is what did you do from like year one to year two? So like something that like I like to point to is like seeing Max Christie, for example, like last year,
Hmm.
like, you know, when he came out last summer league, you could tell like already like this kid doesn't belong there. Like he put in like a lot of work and effort in the development part of,
Hmm.
you know, the Lakers basketball, which is something that I've always enjoyed seeing, like, you know, players like, you know, going to the lab and kind of working on their areas that they need improvement on, or they're actually like have identified areas that they're strong in. And now they're kind of honing those skill sets. Right. So like we can talk about Bronny James, like right off the bat, like, you know, his athleticism, like when I look at it, like it's pops like off the screen.
Yeah.
Um, and I think for me, like that athleticism was there last year, but I think the main important thing is just confidence. Like he's just so confident in, you know, and it's probably speaks to like his work that he's put in, but then also being focused in and just understanding when in his rookie year, like I'm just going to be in South Bay and I'm just going to work, and the ethic, like the work ethic is there, like working really hard and diligently. And we're starting to see like the flashes, and that's like that as a basketball fan and as a person that like likes playing basketball, the sport, like that excites me. Like seeing that growth and development is really cool to see. And I'd love your thoughts
Yeah.
on just Bronny James and everything.
Yeah, so I was there at his first G League game last year, right? And that was such an experience. And as a person who doesn't watch that much college basketball, definitely even less high school basketball, right? Just
Yeah,
not as
yeah.
familiar with his game. But watching him in the summer league a little bit, had his struggles, but you saw a couple flashes. But he definitely just did not have the confidence as a ball handler, as a jump shooter. Was a little nervous to take shots, passing up shots when teams go under. And that to me took a massive jump, especially in the second half of his G League season.
Hmm.
Became a really his handle got a lot tighter. His confidence as a pull-up jump shooter ended up averaging 21 a game in the G League season, around 38% on 8 3-point pull-up jump shots a game. A lot of his threes came up off the bounce. He was really turned into their on-ball creator, and that's a guy like they are building him towards being an on-ball player. Now, I don't know how much I agree with that archetype for him, 6'2" guard, right? That's a tough place to make the league as. But one thing that he has going for him, you mentioned it, the athleticism absolutely does pop. That is his NBA skill to me, or his NBA
Hmm.
trait, I would say,
Yeah,
is that
yeah.
he's a legit athlete at his position. Has a lot of power to him. He has a nice first step. And you're seeing some of the finishes. I thought you saw it a lot against Boston tonight, where their guys
Mhm.
just could not stay with him. His first
Yeah.
step had him. They were bumping him off. But yeah, the development, he'll talk about it too after games, how much of the film work is done with him. And I think you see it. The reads on the pocket pass are on a different level than they were a year ago. The skip
Oh yeah.
passes, yeah, the drives to the rim, the floater, the shot pass decisions in that mid-range area, all those kind of film work stuff that you need to do to be great. Lindsey Harding is an awesome coach. She's having the summer league coaching this summer, and you can just tell there's a lot of precision with what they're trying to do from him. And I still think there's some defensive stuff where he can have better effort for, but this is not really a place defense is rewarded or highlighted,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
This summer league is a tough place to analyze that, but no, man, his development just from a year, I think, has a lot of optimism going forward. Again, I wouldn't see Bronny as a contributor in the rotation next season. I still
yeah.
think it's a
I'd be
year
shocked.
early.
Yeah,
Yeah, something went really wrong, right? If
exactly,
Bronny's
exactly.
needed next
Yeah.
season, but I do think his development is on a really nice path. Um,
Hmm.
and I think you saw exactly where that stage of development is supposed to be at this point, where like he's a player that looks like he's more athletic, better skilled, more experienced than everyone else in summer league, and that's exactly what we want to see.
Yeah, and I think to touch upon the point about like maybe being a primary creator or ball handler is probably not the archetype that he may fit into or grow into, but I think
Yeah,
just being able to have that skill set, like it looked so valuable on like the Indiana Pacers team or the OKC Thunder team that are like so deep that even like Aaron Wiggins or like that type of player, like if they get the ball and, at that point defenses are closing out to you really, really hard, you take a few dribbles and you make the right read. You've kind of been in those scenarios or situations before because you've gone through it a few times before. So like, I think that, if that is the curve that they're trying to go at and to try to like, you know, make a player well-rounded, then that I totally get that vision, right? And if that's the case, then hey, who knows? Like maybe, later down the line, maybe not this year, but next year, like he's kind of in a Davion Mitchell type role where like he comes off the bench and he's either the primary or secondary kind of creator, or, off ball he's playing. And what kind of excites me is just his ability to rim pressure. Like we did not have many guards last year outside of Luka once we made that trade, but like rim pressure is huge, like in today's NBA. So like if you're able to kind of get 2 feet in the paint, and the strides that he's making from his passing, I think there's so much value in it. And if he continues to, I think I may have heard you say this on Jovan's show that I think you came out earlier today, but like the amount of threes that he took at
yeah,
39%, like it's legit. That's a legit skill that he's kind of grown into, and it's not just like off catch and shoot threes. It's like coming
right.
off pull ups or transition threes, like above the break threes, where like 39% on like, what was it, like super high volume, right? Threes that he's
Yeah,
taking.
like 8 attempts a night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of promise there, like in different areas that like, okay, if they continue to kind of mold and kind of really fine tune, I think there's definitely like a role out there for him, or like a place out there for him in the NBA.
Yeah, I'm with that. I guess the fun question is that how important is the spot up three for him, right? And so,
Hmm.
like, I guess the level you'd have to get to become what he is right now, which is an on ball guard, pull up 3-pointers. How much of that needs to be, moved towards being an off ball guy? Because I think his best role right now, just projecting forward, is having another ball handler next to him where he doesn't have to be the sole ball handler out there, and doesn't have to be the guy that's completely relying on that's running the ball screens for your team. But it's definitely a good thing to have, and if he can leverage this with the point of attack defense, where I think his ceiling can get to, because I think he has a really nice wingspan. When he's engaged on the defensive end, there have been a few matchups in the G League where he'll take personal and he'll really
Hmm.
want to guard a guy, right? He'll pick them up full court, just be super engaged, trying to get a stop. That's where I think you see the talent come out. Doesn't come out as often. Again, the G League and Summer League are both places where there's not much defense being played, especially at the perimeter positions. Centers obviously need to kind of show out, but this is mostly a
Yeah.
guard driven environment in terms of success offensively. But yeah, I like the potential that's being shown. Again, whether it's the right thing to do to develop him as this on-ball guard versus, you mentioned the Davion Mitchells, Avery Bradley is a type, right, that he's been mentioned with. He's
Yeah.
already a better ball handler to me than both of those guys. Like Avery Bradley is a fine ball handler. Davion Mitchell is a fine ball handler. I think Bronny has a higher ceiling than that. But we'll see if that's what he wants to become. But again, I think this was a very positive summer for him. This will obviously, I think this will be the last summer league. He has a game tomorrow. We'll see if he plays in that. But I think you'll see some steps in preseason as well. Again, I'd be very shocked if there's a actual regular season component to his year next year. But it's exciting. A player that the Lakers have developed. I've seen it from day one to now, and it's cool seeing stuff that you see. You walk into the gym a couple hours before the doors open, and you see him working on all this stuff, right? The through the legs step backs, and to see that translate is really cool. And he's still only 20 years old, which he does not feel that way, but
Yeah.
still a
Yeah. That's
very,
crazy.
very young guy in terms of
Yeah.
just life in general. So
Yeah, that's the other thing too, man. We gotta give some of these players like time to
yeah,
grow and develop. You can't expect like results overnight. And you know what's funny is that like how many times do we hear now that Bronny was like the 55th pick and this
right.
nepotism kind of conversation? Like this guy he's like starting to show out and starting to grow. Like you can't like you wouldn't actually expect a lot of players taken at 55 or around that range to grow this much like over a year. So like
Yeah,
it's definitely credit to his work ethic and the coaching staff and the development that the Lakers have. So I think this is a good time to segue about our friend Dalton Knecht. He showed great flashes last in his, I shouldn't say last year, but like his rookie season. And I would have loved to see more of him last year,
yeah,
especially kind of going deeper into the regular season and the playoffs. The playoffs are the playoffs. We don't really have to kind of get into the details of it, but like maybe even if he got some kind of burn there just to kind of get it under his belt. Now, I would say coming into Summer League, I did expect Dalton to kind of show out and, have some of those kind of like heater type games. And I think he had that in game 2 where like fourth quarter, I think he scored like 13 points for the Lakers. And it just looked like reminiscent of some of those games that the Dalton had during the regular season of his rookie year. So I think something that I've taken away, and I'll let you kind of expand on it too, because you're more of our basketball junkie that like watches the film and whatnot. But like it's kind of clear to me that Dalton needs someone who's like a true creator, and he kind of works off of that as part of his game. And some things that I've kind of noticed, and maybe it's kind of him just letting the game go by and the way the flow goes, but he just doesn't like touch the ball often. So then like a lot of the times when he does get the ball, it's like, okay, should I just take this 3 or should I kind of go into traffic and kind of take a contested jumper? So like a lot of I feel like the basketball that he's kind of getting into is just not part of the flow. And I feel like he's like a rhythm flow player. Like he hasn't reached that level where I see like with Cole Swider, like no matter what, no matter what he's doing, if he gets the ball, he's going to shoot it and he's confident with his shot. And he could have like missed his last 15. He has like a memory of a goldfish. I think Dalton is still kind of in his, mentals at times. And it's like, I think his role changed so much, even in college where like, because he went through that growth spurt. And then like in Tennessee, he was like such a high usage player. And now like coming into NBA, like his role is like kind of shifting and changing. So like I think there needs to be a little bit of kind of science into what Dalton Knecht's role needs to be in the NBA, and then that's kind of how you need to guide it. Summer League is not the place for that, right? Like you kind of have like a mishmash of like players, and like you're kind of trying out things, and it's like hard to showcase certain things in the positive way. So that's the way I read into it. I guess I don't put too much stock into it. I think like, when the regular season comes, I think Dalton will be Dalton. And I think the other point I forgot to mention too, is that like, I think he mentioned that he did like 3-a-days, like kind of coming into the off season. So like, I could totally understand as a person who like works out a little bit too, like if he's working out that much, like kind of going into summer league, and they even had California Classic. Like I think these guys are just tired, so like they're not kind of like into the swing of things. But like, let's hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I could see some of that, but I mean, if you're doing 3 days and I'm expecting you to have, higher stamina than a lot of these players, in terms of just what you can do on the floor. So there's two ways, I guess, to see it. I have some grace for the stuff, you're talking about in terms of he needs a ball handler to
Yeah.
succeed. I totally understand that. But with that being said, I think the Lakers were looking at this going, we want the Josh Hart Summer League. We want the
Hmm.
Max Christie Summer League, right? There's my thinking on this is that players who go through an 82 game grind, right? And I think Dalton would have played all 82 if he wasn't traded. He was on path for that, but in any
Yeah.
case, he's seen NBA level defense, right? He's seen NBA level game plans. He's seen NBA level speed defenders. He's been guarded by players who make $20 million a year, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's seen real defense. So when you come to this environment, I expect you to have, even if your shot's not going, I can live with a cold shooting week, right? That happens. It's a normal
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
The part that's struggling for me is he's 7 for 22 on 2 pointers, right? So that's a place where if your three's not going, I need you to be able to get to the line. I need you to be able to get to your spot, whether that's a fadeaway jumper, whether that's attacking the rim, finishing. He's 6'7". He has more than enough tools in
Yeah.
his bag to get to a higher scoring point. And the point that you mentioned of not touching the basketball, I think is absolutely on point. I also think that, to me, I look at that and going, I think he has full reign anytime to go get the basketball for any of these players. RJ Davis, Bronny James are not higher in the pecking order than him. He can decide anytime he wants to, I'm running a ball screen and I'm running a play, but he decides to stay in the corner and stand there for a
Yeah.
lot of the possessions. Now, is that the play that's run? I have doubts that that's what they're telling Dalton. Go stand in the corner and wait for the
Yeah.
basketball. I think even in the context of, if you're a shooter, I get my shots through motion, then go get your shots. Go cut, use a V cut, get off screens, do something where, you're not pigeonholed to waiting for the basketball for your guy to help, and then you get the ball out of that. I'm disappointed in the aggression that he took this. I thought this was an opportunity for him to really shine, and he hasn't. There's one more game tomorrow, so he has a chance to redeem it. But a little bit concerning. I'm with you. I don't think Dalton has fallen off the face of the earth in terms of his basketball talent. Still
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
guy who's average. Who had a November of like 20 point a game type stuff. But I would have loved the attitude towards summer league to be a little different. I don't
Yeah.
this is me psychoanalyzing, but I don't believe he took this with some I have to prove something, and I think the results show that. But I'm not completely out on him. I think there are some stuff here that, I feel like, as a player who's gone through the league, you should not be stonewalled against some of these defenders that you can't even get a shot off. You can't create any separation. Handle was always tight, but in this type of environment, he has enough offensive stuff in his bag where I expected more than what he's done. And again, a 3 point shooting, I put that to the side. Like, I can live with the coldness. I believe Dalton's
Yeah.
a shooter, just like Cole Swider, right? Cole Swider is lighting up summer league. I had zero doubt Cole Swider can shoot. That solved no answers for me, right? None of my
Hmm.
questions were, could Cole Swider shoot? Just like none of my
Yeah.
questions were, could Dalton shoot? I had some other questions that, defensively, I think he's been atrocious. Like, just to put it nicely as I could, I think he's had an awful defensive summer.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff to me that I look at and is really concerning to me. But shooting, I'm not too down on, but all the other stuff, yeah, you want your first round pick from last year to look like the best player on your team. And he's maybe been the third or fourth best player on this team. I mean, I think Bazley, who got hurt today, and Bronny are definitely ahead of him. I think you can argue DJ Stewart has been better than Dalton. And so
Coloco was fantastic today. I
Koloko,
mean,
you could argue as well, has been great as well in the few games he's played in Vegas. Dalton just had a bad summer, which you're allowed to have a bad summer, but this is the wrong time to have a bad summer.
yeah, yeah, it is. I think the point you made about the defense, I think that's a valid one. Like, at least, like, if you are struggling with your shot, and one thing I think is, you know, we can kind of give grace with is like his offensive game. Like, we've seen his kind of ceiling with it, like in like regular season, like you said, against like $20 million like 3-and-D type wing players that are marked up on him. But just that effort and just like, the level of, the ability to just go out there and play and just be a leader, right? Like, even if you're not as, athletic or agile, or like, the lateral quickness isn't there for you, but like, you at least have IQ. And it's funny, like, if you're someone who's like, kind of can play off ball scoring kind of standpoint, and then also can be on ball at times, like, you should kind of know how, players of your same stature or position play on the offensive end. So if you at least have that IQ, you can kind of like get to or beat other players to their spots. So then you can now use your length and frame, because it's not like he's small, like you said, like he's 6'6", 6'7". He has a pretty
Yeah.
decent wingspan, and then he has great jumping ability. I think he has like a 40-inch vert. So like, use some of that, athleticism and length,
Yeah.
and kind of show me something at least. Especially like you said, like, a lot of these teams, they're just kind of rounding up players from like different like G leagues, or like they're not, NBA level players. So like, you should be able to kind of show your worth there. So I think it's fair to say, overall kind of disappointing summer from Dalton. Am I concerned as the whole timeline is on Lakers Twitter? No, I'm not as concerned as folks, as they tend to be. There's got to be some drama there, but
Yeah.
I really hope. I mean, he gets some guidance, and then kind of like turns it around in the rest of this off season.
Me too. Like, I'm rooting for him, and I again, I think it's tough to continually just throw away first round picks. Jalen Hood-Schifino was another pick we had, a year before that. Obviously, a guy that was thrown in the Luka deal as really just salary to make that deal work.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And so it'd be disappointing if Dalton goes through that same path. Now, I think Dalton's just way more talented, and he's going to have some believers because he's just an incredible offensive talent that, has kind of shown that in the league to some extent. But yeah, hopefully there's some, improvement he can examine this summer and look at it as something he can build off of going into next season. But definitely doesn't help his trade value, which already probably wasn't that high, but yeah, that doesn't help that. And I'm sure the Lakers are disappointed in the defensive summer he had, and there's going to be some tough conversations that's probably going to, need to happen with him. But just definitely not a summer that you were hoping from, again, a player you were hoping maybe can contribute next season. You hoped you wish he played in the playoffs some more. I did too. He played 5 total minutes in the postseason, all garbage time minutes. And his minutes really declined after he was traded, right? When he came back, his minutes were on a steady decline. But again, knockdown type movement shooter with some athleticism and pop. That's a player that's going to have a chance to be in the league in some capacity. But we'll see how he goes next season.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of those traits, like, it's like, I mean, if you have that God-given talent, then like there's definitely a role that you can carve out on a NBA team. So I think it just comes down to, to have that hard conversation with Dalton, because I mean,
Yeah.
things can kind of go wayside, right? Because he is also older rookie when you compare it to other rookies that are coming in. So like, you can kind of give a little bit of grace, like we talked about with Bronny. He was just 19, now he's 20, and like, you're at least seeing, growth, right? So I get it from Dalton's side, but like, where the rubber meets the road, you kind of have to start to dig in and just execute and deliver. Real quickly, last part of this kind of summer league, unless you had anything else, but I did want to kind of give a shout out to your main man, Christian Coloco. I know you were a big Coloco fan. And I was impressed with him last year. And I wanted him to play more minutes and more time. I always thought that he was, at least in my estimation, like a little over Jameson. Like, I get that Jameson is kind of like a furniture mover type big, but like, I just felt like Coloco was just kind of like a natural fit in terms of like the way NBA's play today. He's very long, lengthy, and has a little bit more bounce than Jameson. He can get some lob threats ability there. But he just like performed every time he was out there. Like, I like you noticed when he wasn't out there, like there was like a sizable impact, negative there, right? Like there's lack of rim protection, the board to either offensive or defensive glass. But I'll let you talk about Koloko
Yeah,
real quickly
y-
here.
y- yeah, I honestly thought he was the best defensive big in the G League last year. Seeing all the teams
Mm,
that came through to South Bay, I thought he was clearly the best defensive center. Now South Bay just did not have the perimeter and athletes to protect that and have a good enough defense to make the playoffs or anything like that. And Koloko kind of showed up. He was on the two-way, so he's with the parent team coming back and forth. But yeah, I just think he's a really, really talented defensive prospect. Big, I think he's 23 now, or whatever he is. But just a very smart defender. Had 5 blocks tonight, I believe, in their summer league game. Maybe it was 6, but
they give him
uh,
6, yeah, on ESPN.
six
Yeah,
blocks. Yeah, and so he has really great timing. He's not very physical, but my
yeah,
theory on this, or belief on this, is there's just no perfect center. Like I always make the example, Daniel Gafford just got a 3-year, $54 million deal, and you could argue, is Daniel Gafford a starting center? I mean, maybe. Like
maybe,
I think
yeah,
maybe he's a starting center. He's so that's kind of the bar that centers kind of live off of, and I think Koloko at a minimum is just a really solid guy. He has some weaknesses, but I think he's a smart player, can catch it, has pretty good hands, can be a lob threat. He's not very twitchy, jumpy like Jackson Hayes is, but definitely still a rolling threat that has understanding of spatial awareness. And again, I think defensively, he's just really smart. Like he's our smartest defensive big. I think I put Aiton and Hayes in that conversation. Like I think Koloko's just a smarter
yeah,
defensive player than them. They have more tools in their toolbox to use, but again, just a guy that doesn't make a lot of mistakes defensively, and I think that's helpful to have. And again, when your center rotation is DeAndre Ayton, Jackson Hayes, that concerns me. And so I would like to have Koloko. He's still eligible for a two-way, so we'll see how that works. I'm sure he doesn't want to be on a two-way anymore because obviously the financial implications and the way you can be kind of hooked around from both teams. But yeah, again,
yeah,
a player that the Lakers like, that's in their farm system. JJ obviously did not trust him enough to have him on the final roster, and they picked Alex Len over him, which I was screaming at the time was a mistake. But
yeah,
in any case, it was proven to be. But yeah, I just want Koloko to at least get a chance with the big team, get to run some pick and rolls with Luka, play some minutes next to LeBron and Austin, just get some time to build continuity where he's just not thrown in at the end of the season because JJ no longer trusts Jackson Hayes, and so just some time with the team to kind of build some continuity, and we'll see. But again, very talented big man defensively at
yeah,
least.
yeah. You actually make a really good point that I want to kind of talk about in more of a general sense, but like I think, and it was JJ's last season, and the last year was definitely a roller coaster from going from like a LeBron AD led team, and then like midway it's like this Luca trade happens, and then it's kind of like you're like still kind of fighting for, not fighting for the playoffs, but like just trying to make things work so you can continue and make it to the playoffs. But like I would love for JJ to like you know open up his rotation from the get-go, so like you can kind of see like what works well, what doesn't, and just get like as much reps as possible with all your players and different kind of combinations, so that like you said, like later down the line you kind of know what buttons to press, and it's not so you're not you're kind of doing it more proactively and not reactively, where it's like, okay, Hayes is not kind of working for me here, now let me kind of try to throw Koloko out there. But like if you're kind of throwing him out there later in the season when things are a little bit more high stakes, then you don't get, I guess, like all the results there. I think if there's an ability to kind of tap into it earlier in the year, which I feel like some teams, some like I'm probably going to keep going back to this, but like I feel like the Pacers did that, right? Like where they run a whole kind of like 10-man unit, like rotation during the playoffs. So it's just kind of like unheard of. Like I'm so used to seeing like 7-8 man rotation, and you're just like that. Those are your guys you just go with. But like, I feel like the reps that like the first unit and the second unit for these types of younger teams, and there's obviously a conversation of like, okay, how many playable players do the Lakers have? But like if we can continue to like give opportunity for these types of guys, I think there's value in trying to figure that conversation out. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like again, I think they've had the most synergy between their G League and their parent team as they've ever had. Last year, you saw all kind of guys, including Jordan Goodwin, right? As a guy who
Oh
played in
yeah,
South Bay and was able to not only earn a two-way, but earn a standard contract to the point where he got playoff minutes. He was in their 8-man playoff rotation, obviously until JJ cut that rotation to 5, but he
yeah,
was at
yeah,
least in the 8 when they started. So that's a very big success story for them. Jameson obviously was able to play on the parent team. Koloko got some minutes as well. Bronny obviously was on the team, but I do think there is more synergy with that. But that's something JJ is going to have to be open to, and I think he's going to learn from his first season as well. That
yeah,
I thought that was something that was one of his weak points, was integrating new guys into the team and trusting them. But yeah, I think the G League is and I think you're seeing this around the league too, where Scottie Pippen Jr. and Jay Huff, other guys that were in our
yeah.
backyard, right? That, I was kind of screaming like, hey, let's give these guys a shot. Who knows if it's real, but like Pippen Jr. was one of the best guard scorers just in the G League in total. And he had this game. I think he played the Lakers or he played the Bucks. I forgot it was, and he talked about how Darvin Ham just never trusted him, and just stuff like that. Where I just think it's
Oh
very
yeah, I remember
useful.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, so these guys, when they're in your backyard, it's much easier, and you should be taking stronger looks at these players and going, okay, is this real? Let's at least see if it is, right? Like I think Bronny got the shot in Milwaukee or against the Bucks at home, had a nice game, and that was coming off of a bunch of good games in the G League where he's kind of earned those minutes at the top. Jordan Goodwin the same way, but um, yeah, I'm with you though. There's a level of integration that needs to happen, between both squads, and getting a bunch of younger players that can contribute to the parent team is very useful.
yeah, yeah. I'd love to see that, and I think that's probably a good segue to talking about our next year's Lakers and the roster. I know things are still up in the air. I mean, it's still really early into the off season. Things can always change, but talk to me about your feelings on this new Lakers roster shakeup with finally we have a starting caliber center in DeAndre Ayton and Jake LaRavia. I don't know if you've done a film breakdown on him. I'm really excited to see how things shake out with him. And then we lost Dodo. I
Yeah.
have some thoughts on it. I think the reaction to losing DFS was maybe outside of the Lakers sphere, like larger in nature, where I don't know if it's as kind of a big loss in terms of like what we gained, by losing DFS. Now there's obviously conversations on like how, DFS was managed and whatnot. We don't really have to get into that, but like just talk to me about, DFS is out, Markieff Morris, Alex Len, and we bring in Aiton, Hayes back, and then Jake LaRavia.
So it's funny, if you beginning of the offseason, if you told me we were basically trade DFS for DeAndre Ayton at $8 million and Jake LaRavia, I'd probably taken that. I would have probably accepted that trade. Obviously, I don't think LaRavia is better than DFS today, but I think the gap between Ayton and whoever our starting center would have been is canyon size. And so I would have taken that. Now, the process and the reporting around how we got to that
Yeah,
point is a different story. Is
exactly.
it adds some context to it, but uh I would have taken that. So if the result is the result, I I think we're a better basketball team because of that. So I
Balanced, more
really,
balanced. Yeah.
yeah, I really like Laravia. I wrote about him. I called him a connector type player, and I
Mm.
think ever since Austin took his jump, right, he took his jump to like the next tier, which is star adjacent on ball
Yeah.
creator. No one really filled in his connector spot. You know what I mean? So that
Mhm.
spot has been open to me. And so like once you cross that threshold, you don't really go backwards. That's why I think we've been missing a player within that. And I think that's where Laravia just fits amazing. He's very much a modernized player. You look at his shot chart, it's all threes and all layups, stuff
Yeah.
at the rim.
Yeah.
There is no mid range to his game, which there's downsides to that as well, right? You're less of a versatile player, but I think it really fits in this drive and kick type of offense that they're trying to run. And again, Ayton to me is I don't know, building your whole season on the back of if Ayton is good is also just an absolute terrible casino game that you're playing. But that is the game that we've chosen. That is the just being in Vegas. That's the card game that we sat down to play. And so if that's what it is, then you better hope DeAndre Ayton is good. And I think there are some cynical reasons why he would be, right? It's a contract season for him. I'm sure he doesn't want to make $8 million again next year. Already gave up, he gave up, I think, $4 to $5 million to come to the Lakers in any case.
He gave up 10. So he gave Portland 10 back. So he's making 25 for this year from Portland, and then LA is paying him 8.
Good. Right. Yes. And so I'm sure he wants to make that up next season. So to do that, you're gonna have to be successful. But also, bigs next to Luka Doncic probably have one of the easiest NBA jobs in the world. Again, Derek Lively, I'm a big fan of, but I think his numbers have dropped since Luka Doncic's departure.
Sure.
Danny Gafford as well in that same position. So I'm excited. I would hope. I wanted one more move in terms of getting a wing defender. I just think we're so low below the baseline and threshold that you need to be on defense. But offensively, I think we're going to score a ton of points. I think Ayton, Luka ball screen is going to be hell to defend when Ayton is right and engaged, and when Luka is in better basketball shape. I think that pick and roll is just a monster. And yeah, I like our first round pick. I do Thiero. Have not seen him play yet, but
oh my God, I wish we got to see him in Summer League. I think he would have. Oh my God, he would have popped for sure.
He would have broken the building. Just that building was waiting for something exciting to happen, and he would have been just an awesome fit in that environment. But that's basically our moves, right? I mean, it's Ayton, LaRavia, the first rounder, and the exit of Dorian Finney-Smith, who I like Dorian a lot, and I think he was awesome for what we needed. But again, I think our center spot was such a hole that if that's the money that opened up from it, I can live with that. Again, we don't have to get into how this happened, the conversations of different ways the teams feel, but Ayton and LaRavia in for Dorian to me is a positive, and so I think we're a better basketball team because of it.
Yeah, you put it so simply, right? Like if you traded away DFS at a macro level and you got Ayton and LaRavia back, I mean, if I'm a GM, I'm doing that 10 times out of 10. But given the age, given what the team the needs are, and then also looking at Ayton's age and LaRavia's age. I mean, they're sub 26 and under, so as many kind of younger youth players that we can put around Luka, the better situation you're in. So, and I also think so here's my thing about the DFS trade. I don't know if I really haven't kind of gone to the timeline to at least articulate this, but I feel like the DFS trade made a lot of sense when we had AD. When we moved off of AD, because here was my vision, right. So going into playoffs, you have AD, and then DFS was already kind of, as he got older, he was kind of starting to play this role already, but he was playing more small ball 5, small ball 4, and moving away from kind of being that, wing perimeter type player, but being more of a kind of help connector, defender player / I think he would wreak havoc with AD in the paint, off rotation and whatnot. But the second we moved off of AD, although I totally get the relationship Luka and DFS had, and I would have, if there was a way, and I'm sure there would have been. I think if you can get creative so many different ways. There were so many GMs that got creative in the offseason. We don't have to get into details, but if there was a way to keep DFS and then still do the Ayton and LaRavia, that's no home run off season. But but I wouldn't expect him to be our kind of that role that you just talked about, right? Which is what we're missing, is kind of that wing player who can guard the perimeter and also kind of be that connector type player. DFS still doesn't fit that role, even if we were able to keep him. I think we need to, now that we kind of lucked out where we were able to get Ayton on just $8 million, we kept all the assets that we need. We were intending on needing to maybe go get a center. Now it's kind of go get that wing type player, right? Or kind of like a more of a point of attack type defender player.
Exactly. I guess the only thing that hurts, I think DFS is just like, I guess I trust DFS in a playoff game.
Sure,
Right?
He's an
And
adult in
so
the room. Yeah, there's no way to go about
very
that for
much
sure.
now. Like, I think the Minnesota series was probably very enlightening for the Lakers, right? In terms of, this is a guy that is slower. He doesn't really raise our athletic profile. I do think he helps in the small ball, like environment, but it's clear with Luka Doncic. I think Luka does need a center near him, around him, and the Lakers probably looked at that and went, "We're not giving you 4 years. It's just like we're not giving you a longer contract." And I can understand that. DFS is 32 years old, right? And so having him at his 36-year-old season now, Houston getting him on a 1+1 basically is a awesome move for them. I think that makes them, a really great team. But yeah, again, I like that you mentioned the age. Aiden is what, 26 or whatever he is. Laravia is 23, I believe, or 24. It just puts the team in a really nice athletic.
Yeah, Laravia's 23. He's younger than Dalton Knecht, which is crazy.
Yeah, younger than Dalton. I think Aiden's like 26 or whatever he is. He's still extremely young as well, in terms of just his athletic prime. And so adding more young athletes, I think, was part of the equation this summer, with a 40-year-old, LeBron next to him. Presumably, right now LeBron's the Laker. We'll see in 3 months how it looks, how the landscape shifts again. But and so I like DFS in terms of a small ball 4-5. But if you still have LeBron on your team, DFS becomes a 3, which I think is just a lot tougher to find lineups that sync well, especially next to Austin and Luka. And why the trade I wanted to happen was, I really wanted Andrew Wiggins.
Me too. Yeah,
that's the player I wanted. Would you have? So let me ask you a question. I took this around Las Vegas, and I'm in the minority here. So I would have given the first round pick for Andrew Wiggins. I think he would help.
Plus Dalton? Would you give
Plus
Dalton
and Rui? I would have given that for Wiggins. Now, I understand that's an overpay, but I also understand this isn't a grocery mart where, the cost is just some fixed cost and I get to go barter with another grocery store. This is not how this works at all. And so I just think he's extremely helpful. And I think our specific hole on the team is so clear that we need an athletic wing that defends. And if you scour the league for players that are available, again, I think we're linked to GP2. I would like him. GP2 to me is not on the Andrew Wiggins level, especially on the other end of the floor, right? In terms of two-way ability. DeAnthony Melton's another name, but another guy that's hurt. And so Wiggins is the guy that I would like, but I feel like that ship might have sailed by now, just with the moves that Miami has made and traded for. But I would have given that package a month ago, and I still feel that way. Dalton Summer League obviously did not help at all, but
it didn't.
That's the player that I would want within that. But I would live for a Marcus Smart, the name I just mentioned, GB2. But I think Wiggins would really take this team to a different level because he actually plays the position that Rui can't, which is the 3. And so that's where I'm at with the team right now. I think they're a wing defender away from being just a legit, like, you gotta handle this team in a 7-game series. But for now, they can be competitive. They can get a top 3 to 4 seed. But I think they're really missing that defensive piece.
Yeah. I agree that they're a wing defender player away, but it has to be a certain caliber, and I think the Wiggins fits that bill. Like if it's like a wing defender that's like a tier below, like because I feel like Wiggins is so complementary in the sense that, like, he can guard on the perimeter. He's athletic. He can even deliver on the offensive end, where he's like a great cutter. He's gonna play so well, like, alongside Luka. So you could probably put him on, 1s and 2s, and then if he needs a guard up, he could do that too. So, like, he's like, he would be like a perfect get, and he's someone that we know that is like available somewhat, right? And like, we're not gonna be able to get Herb Jones, or like, I know there's like a lot of talk about that type of stuff, but like, you're not gonna get Herb Jones, who just got extended, or those types of players. But like, If I don't know if I would give up. I guess if I were to give up all that, I would ask for like something else in return, like whether it's like draft compensation, like maybe it's a protected first or like some seconds back or something like that, just so like I have a few more
Sure.
draft like ammo to use at the deadline, because I think
Yeah.
right now they only have one second and then they only have one first at their disposal to use at all.
Yeah.
So
Most definitely. I can see the reasoning why not to do it. I look at this landscape of the league. I mean, Boston is out pretty much as a contender, right? Indiana
yeah,
has had their best player go out. You have a bunch of teams that are really just don't have an opportunity because of the injuries that happened. And so obviously Oklahoma City is who they are. And Denver I think got better. Houston obviously improved with getting KD, but still think that's not a far bar to reach. And so if the talent can get a little bit closer by having, hopefully Luka Doncic on a revenge level season, best player in the league type of year, which he's more than capable of having, going to be in the MVP conversation, all that stuff. I just would like to get a little bit more talent on the,
yeah.
starting side and have a legit lineup that makes a lot of sense. But even so, I mean, Austin, Luca, Rui, LeBron, and Aiton is still a very strong starting five. We'll see if Laravia can creep in there. But still a very strong, like 6-7 man rotation. I think one more defensive player would kind of put them into legit status. But that's kind of where we're at. And the Lakers have been very open. We're not trying to get salary past a certain year, which
Yeah.
means we're trying to keep our draft picks, kind of steady in our grasp, which kind of limits the moves that you can do, give some tension with Rich Paul in terms of the urgency to win next year versus the year after. But that's kind of where we're at. But still a good team. We'll see, how competitive they are going to the year. I just one move or one signing away from like you can really kind of picture them into the contender status role.
So yeah, that answers like my question of like what type of moves you would make to contend. Why don't we get into then outside of Wiggins, because we kind of know that he may not be available currently. Are there any other players that like fit
Yeah.
the bill for you to get us to that point of contention for the Lakers?
Yeah, I guess GP2 would get you pretty close. I like having another defensive, just a guy who's in the league because he defends type player, and I guess his other end of the floor limits his value. Obviously, I think he's still
Yeah,
not like so. Him and Vando are very far apart. I think GP2 is a much more willing cutter. He's a lob threat at the guard position, which
yeah, he is.
I
Yeah,
honestly don't remember the last time we had a lob threat at the guard position. And so
is Shannon Brown considered a guard? Was he a guard for us?
he was a guard, but he wasn't really a half court lob threat. I would say he wasn't much of a screen
Yeah, he was
setter.
on.
Also basketball is just played much
Basketball is so
differently.
different. Yeah,
Yeah, so but GP2 very modernized in that way, very good in the short roll, has played, with a movement player for, forever now, and so really
yeah,
understands defenses and counters. That's a guy that I would like. I like Melton a lot. I actually like Smart on a buyout if that was something that can occur. Dame just went back to Portland, so some weird stuff there. If we'll see what happens with Drew. I'm guessing they keep Drew Holiday, but whatever happens with him. But that's
yeah.
kind of
Drew
the
would be
arc.
awesome on the Lakers. Even at this
Yeah,
point, like he would be awesome. He would be fit so
yeah.
well.
I just can't see it because they just traded for Simons, but that's kind of in the dream bucket. Um, but yeah, I think GP2, Melton, Smart are fine. Wiggins again is the player that would really try to go get in some capacity. If you can get him without the first rounder, that would be great. I just don't know how that comes to happen. But I like GP2 a lot. Seems like there's some interest on both sides there.
They could probably get honestly both, right? Because like GP2 is just a free agent signing, so I'm assuming if you're gonna trade for Wiggins, you clear
Yeah,
up a roster spot, so you're gonna be able to get one of if you kind of have if you hear rumblings about Marcus Smart getting bought out, then you've reserved that spot. So then now you have Smart, Wiggins as part of your rotation, which is okay. Now you're kind of in that conversation
yeah.
of in the West.
E- Exactly. And again, I think the holes, it's funny because I think the weaknesses of this roster were clear 2 months ago, right? And I think it was very clear we needed a center, which we've solved technically, right? You do problems on the whiteboard, you have an answer with a question mark on it. Like, is this the correct answer? We'll see if this is correct in about a few months. We'll see how Aiton's engagement is. But I think a defensive wing was highly, highly on my radar of what something we needed.
Yeah.
So Austin's got killed this summer as a person that can start next to Luka Doncic, right? And
Yeah.
I think Austin's actually fine, as we do this thing with defense where we throw it all in a bucket. Like, are you good or bad on defense gets thrown in a bucket. But offensively, we don't do that. Offensively, we separate by can you shoot, can you drive, you have ball handling, like all this stuff. But
Yeah.
defense, we kind of just throw it in. Are you a good defender or not? I think Austin's actually a fine chaser. Like, you can put him on guards
Mm-hmm.
and he'll chase
Mm-hmm.
over fine. It's the Anthony Edwards, Brandon Ingram's, right? Like that just apex predator type wing that has the ball. That's the one where you don't really want Austin on. You don't want LeBron on at 41 years old, and you don't want Luka Doncic on either. So where does that leave you? That leaves you Rua Hachimura, DeAndre Ayton, right? That's a place to me where we're so far below the survivable threshold, and that's where I think we need just a defensive wing to kind of placate that and protect against that. But if you can do that, I think this team has a really nice offensive ceiling. We'll see if LeBron has any drop off from last year. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, that's the kind of guys I would really go after.
I think two things, like 2 points I wanted to bring up on that, and just not to open up like a can of worms from the regular season, but like we gave up so easily on switches that like we just gave up
Yeah.
whatever matchup. So like if we showed some resistance, at least it's like, okay, now you're in a time crunch where like, okay, you're not able to get that player you want, and now you're kind of forced into like a tough shot, or like at least it's contested, where we were just like, okay, here you go, you can take whatever matchup you want, and then the opposing player just walked us down to whatever kind of jump shot they wanted, or layup, or whatever it was. And then from there they were just able to create like multiple advantages, especially in that Minnesota series. I'm kind of talking about that, but like also a lot of those players that you just mentioned that like Austin kind of struggles with, like 85% of the NBA
Yeah. Yeah.
defenders struggle with. So it's not like, yeah, I mean, it's just like we tend to, I mean, not we, but like fans tend to have recency bias, or like recency kind of like prisoner of the moment type of situation, where like, okay, Austin really sucked, like we got to move on from him. But it's like when you start like kind of looking at the numbers and like what he makes, like you're not going to be able to get anything of value because of what he makes if you traded him. And then also like he fits so well with your team. Like I actually like, LeBron's LeBron. I don't know what the future is, but like I can actually get behind like a Luca, Austin Reeves, Aiton kind of core. Like at least there's
Mm,
like a balance of like skill set
talent.
and players and talent there, where like, okay, now if I have a off season of planning, and like I have cap space to kind of like, whether it's like making trades or signing trades, or like signing players, like I know if I bring in enough athletes around those three, like I think that's a pretty good team. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like between, and assuming like, the all the things I kind of mentioned with Aiton, like if he kind of buys into like the role and kind of goes back to what he did at Phoenix, I don't see why it wouldn't be an issue, and why we couldn't be a formidable team.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. And look, I like us getting younger. I like the athleticism that we've added. And I think the Lakers really believe in a Austin Luca future. I don't put Luca in a backcourt. I think he's more of a forward, right?
Yeah,
In terms of his
yeah,
offensive role as obviously as a guard. But I think the Lakers really believe, in that as like a pairing that can really have a lot of offensive success. I do think they need to be protected, defensively in different ways. But you're right. If Aiton can become that player, and again, I think on 35 or $40 million, that's a tough place to build. But DeAndre Ayton at the 10, $15 million range, I think that's a very talented player on a contract that makes a lot of sense. I think he's also a big product of his environment.
I think
Had the
so
great,
too.
yeah,
Yeah,
had the great time in Phoenix, right? Those first few years in a very stable situation where, a lot of winning was being occurred. Chris Paul just got there. It became a very serious organization. And then they kind of played with his contract, which I think lost a lot of the respect for him in the organization. Went to Portland, was a tanking team. He mentioned this in his presser that, Portland wasn't really trying to win. So neither am I, which, isn't the best
Yeah.
attitude to have,
Yep.
but this is obviously a very different situation. So we'll see if he can kind of reestablish his value. We did that. We did something similar with Malik Monk a few years ago, where he came in on a, very lower value than his talent would think, and kind of was able to parlay that into a nice payday with the Sacramento Kings, who he's now on the trade block again. Or was he traded? I can't remember.
He's on the block. I mean, I think he was going to be part of that sign and trade, but they ended
Yes.
up not doing a sign and trade for Dennis Schroeder. But I don't know why. I never know what the Sacramento Kings are
No
ever
one
doing.
does.
Yeah, so no one does. But yeah, I mean that type of you know, that those types of stories have always been there, like with the Lakers, so that like you can kind of rehab your talent and contract. Where I really do see a pathway for Ayton. Like that was the whole thing. Like when Ayton was bought out, like I felt like this was like kind of like a match made in heaven type of situation for
Mhm.
both. Like there's like a vested interest from both sides for this to work, right? Because like if it
Absolutely.
works out for Ayton, it's going to work out for the Lakers because that may be your starting kind of caliber center for the next few years, and you may be able to they may be able to sign him on kind of like a dip in terms of like a number because we're starting to see more teams kind of roll out like center by committee, and we'll see how the season pans out. But like if there's a way to kind of make it work, maybe it works in our favor to kind of sign him long term.
Yeah. Same agency as Luca as well, right? Bill Duffy,
Oh yeah,
BBA
oh yeah,
agency, and that matters way more than people believe and think. These agencies act very closely together. Their players are all very close. Jake LaRavia is on the Lakers partly because his same agency as with Austin Reeves. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
there's just um that always helps. And so we'll
yeah.
see how much that contributes on the court. But I think there's a lot of optimism for Ayton having a good year. I do think there has to be some, monitoring of the situation in terms of, I think he's a player where he's going to need his touches. He's going to need, not that the Lakers wouldn't want him to get touches, but, there's some ways where things can clash, where things don't go well. But I'm with you. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
there's some optimism there in that he have a good year.
yeah. I think we could probably have like a full episode on DeAndre Ayton for
Yeah.
like there's so many ways that this can go, and there's so many like analyses that can be done because like he brings so much to the table from the offensive standpoint, and I think we're gonna be able to see that impact like immediately with him out there. I mean, we were like as good as Hayes looked, in the regular season. Like now you're bringing in someone who's like maybe 10 times as better as Hayes is, and it's just gonna work out, I think, from that standpoint. So I think it's so like I think we're like one or two moves away. I think we're both kind of in alignment with like one or two moves in that like one trade / plus one more like signing, like
Yeah.
either from the buyout market or it's like one of the people like either Gary Payton or D'Anthony Melton. One guy I think we probably didn't name before, but which I think I would have loved, and I know he's not linked to us, but I think Al Horford signing him would be like really, really big for us because like you're kind of bringing in like a professional kind of adult in the room, kind of fits that like DFS kind of role that you were talking about. Not positionally, I'm just more so saying like kind of like a voice in the locker room, and then just a defensive leader out there on the floor from a center position, but like maybe someone who could like really mentor and coach DeAndre Ayton to just show him how to be a professional NBA player and really stand out for many, many years. Because I mean, what's it called? Al Horford's been producing for years and years. So
Yeah, I would have loved Horford. I don't like the age, but it would have been great. I didn't before Aiden was signed. Like I was thinking of giving him maybe the non-taxpayer or whatever it was. As a player to bring in, but yeah, as a second or third big, I think he would be great. He's still on the market, so we'll see what money he eventually gets. I'm shocked he's not a Warrior yet. That just
they're
makes a lot
waiting
of
on
sense.
the Kuminga thing. because the Kaminga thing is going to dictate a lot of their spending power on the rest of the guys that they have either verbally promised or verbally agreed to like deals. But
Yeah,
like, because like, yeah, that Kaminga thing can go like a lot of different ways, right? Like he either
yeah. I
gets
mean,
signed and traded, or they reach an agreement to an extension. It doesn't seem like they're going to extend him. I mean, I think they just want to
I'm sure
find some.
I'm sure they have a number on the table already in which he's just not signing. Uh, I
Yeah.
I think I wonder what happens with him as well, but I don't think he's in their plans of
No, I don't think so.
So it's interesting to see. He's a guy that's so fascinating because I think he's being told like you're a $35 million player, right? He just watched Jalen Williams get 285, and I'm sure Kaminga's looking at it going, put me on OKC, and I probably average whatever it is. I don't think he's wrong, but I think if you put Kaminga on the Wizards, he averages 18 a game, probably on bad
Yeah.
efficiency, whatever it is. But he's not on the Wizards. He's on a
Yeah, he's not.
real,
Cam
he's
Whitmore's
on
there now, so he kind of
oh,
took that. He kind
that's
of
a
took
good
that.
point. Yeah, but from
Yeah.
Kaminga's standpoint, I'm sure the Warriors have something like 480 on the table for him. He's probably like, I'm better than that. And maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, but it's an interesting place to be. But Horford, I feel like would just kill on the Warriors. That just makes so much sense for their
Yeah.
system. Horford and Draymond would be, I think, just so good next to Jimmy Butler. I hope he doesn't go there. I would love for him to come here if we can open him a
Or
roster
just
spot.
retire. Just take.
Doesn't seem like that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Still a very helpful player, but yeah, like I wanted Al Horford over Brooke Lopez, and Brooke signed for $9 million with the
Yeah,
Clippers.
I was so concerned that like that's what the offseason would kind of amount to, is that like we would get either Brook Lopez or Clint Capella, and I'm
Oh
like, oh
yeah,
man,
that's
like
what it felt like. Yeah, I'm glad Lopez went to the Clippers. I was not a Lopez guy, but
yeah, I
Al
just
Horford I would
don't.
welcome. Like
Yeah,
adult in the
yeah.
room, as you mentioned.
I mean, he
It's
can
what
still guard on the perimeter, like
yeah
on switches and whatnot. Like he's still like he's
he
still valuable, like on both
yeah.
ends.
I just like this is why I'm open to Marcus Smart because I think you need someone to be able to look LeBron in the eye and go, "You're not defending the way we need you." And so I just and look Luca in the eye and say that too, right? And have
Yeah,
enough cachet to say that. I just don't know who in our locker room can do that right now. Who can go to Luka Doncic other than LeBron, who I don't think is
not yeah.
doing
We
that
don't have
very
that
much.
guy right now.
So I think we're missing that, like a culture setter, and that's not everything, but it does matter to me.
No, it does, 100%.
I think Marcus Smart would not be scared at all to go tell Luka Doncic or Austin Reeves or LeBron James, "Hey, you're not defending the way we need you," and say it with enough verve and enough, maybe there's some emotion to it, but
Yeah,
I just think that's missing from our roster too. Aiton's not doing that. So Rui's not doing that. Vando is not playable enough to do that.
yeah,
Uh, that's something I would like to solve too. And, I'm asking for a lot maybe, and maybe this player can be all these different things at once, but it's another thing that I think we need is some locker room presence that can, speak up when they need to.
yeah. No, that'd be good. So I think to just cap this off, I mean, I think they're just a move or two away. I mean, just like if you like really think about it, and it doesn't take too long and hard. I mean, we have Luka Doncic on our team. He's like one of the best players in the NBA, and I think LeBron, Reeves, and all these other players, like there's enough talent there, and if you kind of surround that talent with the requisite level of like players in terms of roles, I think that team is right there. Like you said, like put them in a 7-game series. You just got to win 4 games, or you got to beat them 4 times, which is gonna be a tall order. Real quickly, I think this will be our last subject of the night. I want to talk about Kobe Bryant, someone who I was my favorite basketball player growing up, and I have his Bruce Lee kind of shoes like propped up right there. Lately, he's been getting disrespected a ton. And the latest came from Bleacher Report ranking, giving their rankings of all time NBA players. And they ranked Kobe Bryant 11 on the top 10 list, which I don't know. I don't know if it was a clickbaity thing or if it was something that they legitimately believe in. I know after the kind of fan reaction, they did come back out and proclaim that one of the reasons why he was bumped out of the top 10 was because he played with Shaq and he won 3 of those rings with Shaq. But I'm sure you'll get into it, but I know if you watched those championships really close as I did, you could clearly see that it was a 1A, 1B type of situation. It wasn't, a 1 and a 2 type of pecking order. Like they were, neck and neck, shoulder to shoulder in terms of what value that they brought to winning those championships. So this is your time to shine, Raj. I want to hear your thoughts and see what you think about Kobe and where do you rank him all time?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the three-peat Kobe. Was not watching hoops yet at that
Okay.
time, and so but I watched. So my first season was watching them was the '07 through '08 year, and
Okay.
just being around that time, falling in love with the game, reading everything you can. Obviously, the media landscape isn't what it is now, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
at the
different.
time, you had a very lot more smaller groups of media that you can follow. But I will never let anyone erase the history of how the game was spoken about at that time and where Kobe was seen just in the general league. He was very clearly regarded as the best player in basketball. And that was like,
Yeah.
it's because I see the Tim Duncan stuff come up. But Tim Duncan, great player, right?
Amazing player.
Maybe
Yeah.
Kobe calls him the best power forward ever, or called him that at the time. But people did not have Tim Duncan over Kobe Bryant at the time, and that is something that has evolved with the analytics and the stuff that has started to enter the game, which is not always a bad thing. I think there are places for it, but yeah, I'm very blessed. I got to grow up and watch him, and in that era from like 2006 to like 2012, 13, I think he was the best player in the league and had obviously the 2 titles within that, 3 straight finals trips. Started to taper off as the injuries caught up to him, but yeah, I have him probably a lot higher than a lot of people have him. So I have him somewhere in the, 4th or 5th or whatever place
Yeah,
range.
that's where
But
I have him too in the
but
top 5. Yeah.
but it's funny when people go like, "Hey, he's like 15th or 16th," and that is just not even close to the end, or even 11th, as Bleacher Report came out today. If you have him there, like you can have your arguments about that, but that's just not close to the energy that was being put out when he was playing. Like
Yeah.
that was not the feeling at all. Go listen to the way players speak about him. Go listen to Kevin Durant speak about him. Go listen to all these people. It's just not the energy that was put out. Like this was just some great player. This was one of the best players ever. Modeled his game after Michael Jordan. Probably got the closest to right to getting to what Michael did, and Michael obviously has the 6 titles on him, but yeah, I don't even entertain these conversations anymore because I know what I watched, I know what I
Yeah.
saw, and I was there, and so no one could tell me different now. And going, oh, James Harden actually caught up to Kobe as a scorer. It's like, man, it's just not even close.
Not even
And
close, man.
so the Tracy McGrady stuff, I was there during the T-Mac Houston Rockets. It just wasn't even a conversation at the time. And for now to like retroactively hindsight, do some number stuff, Kobe's shooting through percentage. And did he take great shots all the time? No.
No.
Did he miss a lot? For sure. But when it was time to win, there was no one better, no one more clutch. Again, who's the best is a subjective thing that
Yeah.
everyone has, but yeah, I don't know how much of this clickbait or not, or whatever it is from these sites that put out these rankings and stuff like that, and having people from the 1950s better than Kobe Bryant, off of whatever evidence that they have, always is is crazy to me. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it, man. I have him on my wall behind me actually twice. You know, that's a person that was a big part of the motivation and just not in basketball but life in general. And yeah, if you didn't grow up watching him, I feel for you. It was a
Yeah.
different time. It was a different era. I feel like basketball was spoken about a little bit more gracefully. There was conversations were more, I don't know, about the game. That's different. That's a topic for a different day where the media landscape is today. But yeah, I don't. Kobe's Kobe Bryant, and I think you saw the reaction when he passed, what impact he had on people's lives, and
Yeah.
it's not a normal
Yeah.
thing.
I think what for me what made Kobe so great is that it wasn't just basketball that like his mentality was to be great at every aspect in life, right? So
Yeah.
like even after he stopped playing basketball and when he hung up his jersey and his shoes, he started to kind of get into media and even the arts kind of it all and wanted to always shine a positive light in the game that he loved, right? Which started with Detail. I love that show that he used to kind of present and showcase like players and it's kind of crazy too to think about like one of the greats kind of going to that level of
Yeah,
detail
entertainment.
to kind of to entertainment. I mean, like if he just wanted to spend time with his family and do that kind of stuff, I would not even knock him for that. But like he still wanted to push the game forward, which kind of reminds me of that tweet that he sent out to LeBron when LeBron
Mhm.
passed him on the all-time scorer list, which is always just promoting other players. And it also reminds me of Allen Iverson, what he does today, like always kind of like uplifting other players, which is I think what basketball in the way it's presented needs way more of right now because it's way too like, he said, she said, or like, it's just too combative, like in terms of like a game that is so like fun to watch, fun to play, and it's there's so many moving parts. Everything happens so quickly, but then also it's like if you kind of break it down to a science level, it's also so simple too, like how to just score a basket is how you win a game. But like I just think like he bled greatness, and everything he did was just great, and I feel like he was a representative of that in basketball. And I think for you to kind of put him there, it's hard not to tell the story of basketball without him present, right? And yeah, no, I can't get by that. I mean, I think I would have Kobe in my top 5. I think
Yeah.
there's just
There's
so much he
yeah,
brought.
there's a lot of pushback to that. I mean, I don't tweet about it because I just don't want my mentions being destroyed by that, but a lot of pushback towards that. And again, I think whatever your relationship is to basketball, that's a beautiful thing. However you got here, um, welcome to the community. But yeah, I think it's all subjective, and I think we've come to a place in society where basketball society where Michael Jordan and LeBron James are 1 and 2, wherever you have them, that is kind of the accepted um place of ranking for the top 2, and then after that is just a wholesome of people putting their own biases and stuff within it. But
Yeah.
anyone who was there during Kobe's career, I hope honestly would attest to the conversation at that time. He was regarded as the best in the league. This is while LeBron was winning MVPs, all that
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
stuff. Go listen. So I always tell people, go listen to the '09 finals commentary, or even '10, or even 2010, whatever you want to choose. Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, who were a lot better at that time before they were turned into what they did. Constantly through that, we're like, this is the best player in the league. This is the best player in basketball. Yada yada. This is again this time LeBron's winning MVPs. Dwayne Wade. There's some conversation now of between Wade and Kobe, and I love Dwayne Wade. I think he's an awesome player.
It's not
Wade and
even
Kobe
close.
was just not a conversation during
Yeah.
those times, and so now it's a conversation because and you have these stan bases and all these people coming up. Even the Harden stuff irks me. Guy who has done nothing and when the games have mattered, but yeah, it's interesting where it's at. But I think I hope the people who were there at the time, because we're getting into a dangerous territory where this was now 15 years ago when Kobe won his last championship, right? So
Yeah. Yes.
you're getting these next host of fans who've never actually watched him have these takes on him, and yeah, it's starting to prevail into the reality. And so that I feel that's part of my job is to like, whoa, wait, no, that is not how this was viewed at all at the time. This is Tim Duncan was not viewed this way, Tracy McGrady was not viewed this way, but can't really stop it
Yeah.
entirely. But
Yeah.
Kobe's Kobe, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you hit the point home. Is like wherever we can, we got to just, raise our voice and give it a platform to speak on the truth and just, pushing the game forward. Like Kobe said, like just give it context and celebrate all the players. Like, I myself was a Kobe fan. That was my thing. And I know Nike did this whole campaign to kind of, have LeBron and Kobe up against each other. And maybe we were supposed to get those finals of the Cavs versus the Lakers, but we got Magic versus the Lakers. But, I did not like LeBron at all. But I think part of basketball and what makes me like love basketball is like you have all these, 1% players, and we're talking 1% now, right? That like impact games differently, but they still yield like the same result. And it just looks a little bit differently, right? Like when I watched LeBron win championships with Miami or the Cavs and even now with the Lakers, like he did it differently, which was like beautiful to watch, beautiful to see. But it still like doesn't take away from LeBron's greatness or Kobe Bryant's greatness or like Shaq's greatness. Like they just did it differently, but that's what makes basketball so beautiful because like, you can impact it in different ways and like different skill sets and different positions. But I can still celebrate all those guys because it's just I'm a fan of watching greatness, and I feel like there's like a lot of that around you. So like if you're kind of open to that mentality, and if you're open to just like enjoying and watching hoop, then that's probably the I think, in my opinion, the better way to think about things. But again, it's subjective at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. You're not changing anybody's minds, but again, hopefully these type of conversations are continued to have an open forum where different ideas can be shared and looked at. But again, I just try to bring home that during the time this was happening, this was just not how the conversation have been. Time as a way of changing things. Numbers have a way of changing things. You can look at numbers, can tell you
Yeah.
whatever you want them to tell you sometimes. But Kobe Bryant was Kobe Bryant, and so wherever you have him, you have him. But as a
We
person
know
who
what we
watched every
watched.
game,
We know what we
yeah,
saw. We saw it with our eyeballs. So
right.
Raj, man, it was a pleasure to talk hoop with you. I appreciate you coming on. I know I didn't give you much notice, so I really appreciate that. And I know you just got back from Vegas, so I'm sure you got things planned and everything lined up. But this will not be the the first and last time. I'm going to hopefully have you on some more,
Sure.
and looking forward to your coverage on all LA basketball, Lakers, South Bay, the Sparks, and your film breakdowns and whatnot. So why don't you let everyone know where they can find you and, plug in whatever you want to plug in.
Yeah, this was fun. This is an honor again. Something new. I think we've been planning to at least do something like this for a while. But yeah, at Raj Chipalu on Twitter. Just wrote about Darius Bazley, who sadly got hurt today, but did a feature on him. Just an incredible person, humble player. Got to talk to him about kind of his journey and the coaches, and so that went up today on silverscreenroll.com.
Yeah, hopefully he's okay, man. I was gonna talk to you about him, but then all that stuff happened. But yeah, hopefully
Yeah,
he's okay. Nothing serious. It looked really bad, but I'm hoping for the best.
me too. Got taken off on a wheelchair, which isn't the greatest, of course. So hopefully he's okay. And I think he's an NBA player, honestly. Like that dude
Yeah,
is
definitely.
legit size, talent, skills, just an incredible talent that I think deserves to be in the league, and it would be super unfortunate if an injury on the second to last game of summer league, because I think he earned an NBA contract with his play, would hamper that. So yeah, follow me there, and be exciting hopefully to come back here again. Hopefully during the season, maybe the team looks a little different. Maybe a few more additions get added on to the end of this roster, and we can have a little bit more hope going in the season. But I still think, exciting year going forward, exciting summer league, and yeah, it was great to be here, man.
Absolutely, man. Well, appreciate everyone that stopped by, and again, Raj, it was awesome. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.